Hi everyone, this is Bullseye Handicapping, and coming to you with part two of my day at the race. First race I'm playing this week, and I'm real excited about it to at least be able to look. Don't know if I'm going to make an investment, but I'm excited about the possibility of playing today. And I restrict Bullseye Handicapping is about discipline, restricting yourself to go into the dance 5 days a week and only going to the prom, so to speak, on Saturdays. Because it's worth it to wait. It's worth it to restrict yourself. You have to get a black belt in the art of restriction. And that's what I've done. And Bullseye Handicapping is about building and building and building defenses against your weaknesses and, learning and training yourself to be a winner. And, you have to, because you're on thin ice when you're a gambler. When you're a gambler, you're on thin ice and you're in the middle of the ocean, as I say, because you want to play too many races. Your desire is, I want more, I want more. But it can't be that. I want to play more than one race today, possibly. But that's not my plan. That's not my process. My game is, after 50 years, is to only play 10% of the races I used to play. And less, maybe 5%. I only want to play about 80 races a year now versus 2,500. That's Bullseye Handicapping. That's Jockey Weight Handicapping. So my mofo Joe for Jockey Weight Handicapping is to get lean and mean, and then focus on just one race. Usually it's at the end of the day. And the reason I do that is because you guys are tired. By the time you get to the last races of the day, you've already bet or been involved in handicapping or engaged in playing for hours. And I'm just coming in. I detach. You have to learn to detach, and detaching is very important. So, for example, I looked at the races a little bit for about a half hour. Nothing really happened. Nothing really wowed me. Nothing really got me interesting in actually even wanting to continue, so to speak. But it's Saturday, so I still have the possibility of continuing to look, and we'll see what happens. So the second thing I do is I go back and I look at the videos to see where people are going. And I'm only doing that in the races that I might be possibly interested in playing, which would be the Lexington today and possibly the Jenny Wild. One of those two races. Or both of them if I see something that wows me. But that's all I'm doing, and I'm not playing pick threes. I'm not playing daily doubles or anything like that. As soon as you want to extend your bet, it means you've wobbled. You don't have a clear cut, razor blade bullseye opinion on the race, and that's why people play pick threes and daily doubles, because they're hedging. They want to have three opportunities to win versus two, or they want to have four opportunities to win. They're going to take this horse, and then they're going to take this horse, so that's hedging. That's not bullseye. Bullseye is lasering in on one horse and betting them, and betting just the race, not no ballooning out from it. The good thing that you learn after playing for 50 years is that you got to keep things simple. Just take a little bit of money each week. You have more than enough money because you didn't play all week. Bankroll preservation instead of bankroll depreciation, playing all the time, wanting to gamble. No, possibly make an investment on one day a week, on Saturday. So I listened to Jeremy Plank again, and I also listened to Twin Spires again. I still haven't done Aragona, if he's even doing the race. I haven't seen time form whether they're doing the race or not. I'll check that again. I did get the free time form for the race. I looked at it a little bit, but wasn't really, like I said, wowed. But I'll look at it again. Um, but in the meantime, what I do is I detach. So, I go and I dance, or I go and I rest, or I go and I watch. In this case, which I think is phenomenal, I'm going to do this next year, like I said, if I'm here, is I watch the Masters. I start to watch while the races are going off, because I'm not playing the first 5-6 races. I'm not even going to look at it. I'll come back and look at it after the fact, just to get a mojo. But I'm not going to look at them live, because again, if you look at them and you open up the racing form, it's very difficult to open a racing form as a handicapper, as a horse player, as a gambler, and not wanting to play. It's no different than a girl showing you her her boobs, or a girl can start naked. You open the racing form, you're in. You want to dance. You want to rock and roll. You're activated. You're in. So getting a black belt in detachment is very important. Learning to detach, learning to do other things, learning to get out of the horse racing bubble for a little while, and it's refreshing. Remember, a mind is making decisions here, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about: decisions. The way most people play, the amount of decisions they have to make are in the hundreds. I don't have to make hundreds of decisions. I might have to make 30 decisions, and that's it. Yeah, you're making decisions by subconsciously looking at all these videos and getting a mofo Joe. But I don't have to make decisions of who I'm going to play in the daily double, who I'm going to play in the pick 3, who I'm going to play in the pick 4, who I'm going to play in the pick 5, who I'm going to play in the pick 6, who I'm going to play in the late pick 3, the late pick 4, the late pick 5, who I'm going to play in the late daily double, who I'm going to play in the turf. I mean, it goes on and on and on. No, no, no. Clarity. Get clarity. Clear the board. Give yourself a chance to even, have a chance. Play just a race. Play one race. If you're wild in that race, you can play. You can go. If you're not, then you just pass it. And you've had an enjoyable experience, but you just didn't get involved. You just didn't want to make an investment. And again, if you wobble during the experience, you don't make the investment. Again, the example of at the Wood Memorial, when it started to rain and that, wobble, all kinds of wobbling. So you get out, you stop. You just you gotta have discipline. You gotta, and it has, I've been practicing this process for 6 years now, and arriving at this level and now keeping it is very, very important. And the number one goal is to pass the race before playing the race. Is to pass the race before playing the race. Unless you get this felt sense. And then again, unless you let the bet make you. If the bet makes you, you can go. If you wobble, you stop and you close it up and you just detach. You detach. You just, like the other day, I'm looking at a race and I'm saying, is this worth a fun bet? Mike Bozzoli used to say a recreational bet, whatever. No, man, you don't play these type of races. You would just so-called jerking off, so to speak, with the race, but you didn't go there to get the major, pootie tang, so to speak. No, that you went there, you just checking it out. So you got to then detach. Can't look at it. See, the power of looking at a race, and the probability of you playing it is very, very high. You got to get that. You got to get that. You got to understand that. You got to comprehend that fact, because it's a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact that that certain things are push button for you. So again, the next thing I will do is, again, detach and do something else for a couple of hours, and just get out of it for a minute, and then come back, and then look at the next thing that you want to look at if you want to go forward. And that's what I'll do. But you got to understand that it's not just about horse racing information. It's not just about data. It's not about the Ragusan sheets, the Thoroughgraph sheets, the time form. It's about you. It's about you. What's your mofo Joe? Are you jockey weight? Are you just playing races when you're wild, or are you, are you a gambler? You just want to gamble. I just want to gamble, man. You have no idea that you're allowed not to play a race. You have no idea that you can handicap a race, and then you don't have to play it because you didn't get wowed. Your story wasn't gleaming. That's the factor. You don't get wowed, you move on. It's natural for you. It's no different than in life. You don't get wowed by a house that you're going to select to live in. Me? No, I got wowed. I looked at the house I lived in for 30 years, and I was wowed. And because I was wowed, I bought the house. Same thing with a car. Same thing with a girlfriend. Same thing with a friend. Same thing with a job. Same thing with investing in the horses. Don't do it unless you're wowed. Don't have a fat guy appetite. I gotta play. I want more. I want more. Fat guys want more. No, man, it's jockey weight. Lean and mean. Lean and mean. So I heard good news today. I'm following Baeza, getting moved over to Mott from John Sherris, who passed away. And, I'm really interested in his career, and I want to be all over him, as I want to be all over Sovereignty, despite the fact that the payoff on Sovereignty won't be big. But I want it, and I love the fact that journalism is going to be running against him in Oaklawn. And, I love it because I don't want journalism to run against Baeza, because I think journalism is a little bit better than Baeza, maybe, from last year's stats, so to speak. So these first races that come up really are going to tell me a lot about what I want to do for the rest of the year. So that's the real deal. I mean, that's the real mojo, Poe, is Bullseye Handicapping is, targeting races going forward, but developing your story way before you even see a racing form and who they're running against. So I heard today from Jeremy Blanc, and that's why all these videos are so good. You want to get golden nuggets, all kinds of golden nuggets. And Baeza was, you look in Horse Racing Nation and you see in there where journalism might be running against Baeza, and then journalism might be running against Sovereignty. And I want him to run against Sovereignty, not Baeza. I want Baeza to be all alone by himself, and let him dominate like he did in the in the Parks Derby, when he won that, because he just was better than everybody in there. And I think a couple of those horses came back and won, so that's really good news about his ability. And I remember John Sherris started his first race off not that good, and then after that he just bam. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in Oaklawn, whether he's going to come out. I guess it would depend on the works, and it depend on how he looks, and depend on again the golden nuggets you get from over the next couple of months. But I think he's going to be running on Derby Day at Churchill Downs, right, in the Ali Sheba. So, I'm real excited. And he's doing it at a mile and a 16th. I prefer a mile and an eighth, a mile and a quarter for him. But he's doing a mile 16th, and I gotta have to learn more about that track profile of that track. Hopefully nobody of any quality runs against him, and you can get a decent price, or they put somebody in there from California, and you can get a little bit more of a price. But I'm definitely all in on following Baeza's journey. And obviously following journalism's, sovereignty's journey. It'd be also crazy interesting to see what journalism does, so to speak, because he's a fun horse to follow. But again, getting back to today, this is just, again, it's a grade 3. It's not as big of a horse, but you got to see whether the public makes a mistake, or the public or something just doesn't seem right, and maybe you can get interested, but that's not for hours, and I don't have to worry about that. So now I'll detach from that, and see how I want to do things going forward. So again, if anybody ever wants to say hello, I'm at 475-279-5398, or theenergizer528@gmail.com. And I'll come back on later this afternoon. Basically, I'm just doing a couple of videos on my camera and then uploading them. And then I'll sit down and look at the races, those 2 races, to see if there's anything that speaks to me. And I'll talk to you about that when I come back. All right. Until later, again, as Harvey Pack would say, may the horse be with you. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.